So I'm going to try to tell you the story of how I got to make Baroque flutes. About 10 years ago, I went with my father to the United States. We decided to search for spirit within the hearts of people. And we found that taking musical instruments and going on a tour, it was an opportunity for us to meet people and perhaps reaching to the deep hearts of people. It was a glorious trip. On that trip I learned a lot, especially I was introduced to the blues and to the jazz, this type of music that I actually did not grow up on. I grew up in mostly Hasidic music, perhaps some klezmer, and not more than that. I didn't even know English. My father was born and raised in the United States, but when he decided to move to the Holy Land, to Israel, and he got married here, he thought that he wanted to isolate us from his background. He wanted us to have only the life of Torah and spirit. And that was, I think, by retrospective, it was a great decision. I value the Torah and all the Western and Jewish values greatly. So that led me to have a beautiful family. I have 9 children and the best wife in the world. But I lack the understanding of music and a lot of art. Unfortunately, in the community I was raised, they had no accessibility to these kind of arts. While we were touring in the United States, I decided to buy my father a gift, and I bought him a red guitar. It was ES335 Gibson, semi-hollow, beautiful guitar. He was extremely happy because it was a guitar that his father played on when he was young. My father was a classical musician, and he was playing on a trumpet and a flute and conducting music and writing symphonies. For him, playing the blues and the jazz was something that it was for the fun, but mostly it was to reach out, to find open-hearted people so he can communicate with him on the level of spirit that he desired. My father was a holy man. Everything he wanted to do, it was to inspire and to be inspired of the glory of God. He was so happy with the guitar that I gave him, and he played with it for a couple of years. And then he came to me and said, "Hey, Ariel, you should take this guitar back." I said, "Why? It was yours. I bought it for you." He said, "You know what? Take this guitar, sell it, and buy with it wood." I said, "What? Why? What would I do with wood?" He said, "I want a Baroque flute." So you have to understand, my father was such a spiritual man. When he was writing music, he needed to hear, he needed to feel. So he was writing music for Baroque flutes, and he needed that. He needed the sound of the Baroque flute in order to be able, or not to be able, more to be inspired in writing this music. So he said, "Buy wood and make me a Baroque flute." Now you remember, I am an Orthodox rabbi. I grew up mostly in a Jewish Orthodox community. I studied mostly Torah and Judaic spiritual studies. I had nothing to do with that classical period of music. I knew nothing about it. I never heard before about a Baroque flute. I only knew about the regular silver flute, and I could have even played it because I can play a clarinet, and I saw that my father had a flute, but I never heard about a Baroque flute before. But my father asked, and I thought it was a crazy request, and I pursued that. I went and found wood, and I tried to make Baroque flutes. It was so difficult because I just couldn't figure it out. I couldn't figure out why my flutes were not being able to play in the correct tune. So one day my father saw that I'm struggling and almost giving up. So he said, how about you go to a Baroque flute master that knows how to make flutes and ask them. So I went to Germany, to Düsseldorf. It was this guy named Friedhoft. He is, I think, one of the best Baroque flute maker today. So I went over. He was so kind, and he let me stay by him for 2-3 days, I think. And I learned the basics, and I picked it up, and I went back home. And 2 weeks later, I made my first flute. It was a beautiful, humble, but extremely exciting and a new idea that I pursued, and I was so happy because this first flute was in tune. It was perfect. I gave this flute to my brother because I love my brother, and I think he's the best. And since then I am selling Baroque flutes all around the world. Now you see me, I'm finishing here a Baroque flute that I made from an olive wood that I found in Jerusalem. Some gardeners were cutting trees and they were throwing these branches, and I asked them if I can take those branches, and they said sure, and they were so happy. So they gave me those branches, and I took them and I let them dry for a couple of years, and now finally I'm able to make Baroque flutes from them. This is in a special order that this guy from United States, I think, is an awesome person because it was so much fun in communicating with him. And he asked me if I can make that Baroque flute with this particular beautiful Jerusalem olive wood, but he wanted something unique. He wanted his fingers to be more relaxed. So I designed this Baroque flute to be less stretchy in the fingers. In the description below, I will leave the details for the other videos I made about these olive tree flutes. So now I'm finishing it, and I'm putting the thread and attaching these pieces together. And it's so much fun to see some piece of wood turning into a tube and turning into a living things, because now it will have marvelous sounds coming out of it. So I make flutes, but none of the things that I do is only for the art sake of it. I do believe that I'm showing here that beautiful, glorious Western culture that is based on the Bible. I'm a very religious man, and in the same way, I'm very careful to make the Baroque flutes the best that I can. I want them to be played in the most accurate and the most pronounced and glory sounds. So I really careful to make everything correct. But with that, I'm very careful that my spirits will be alive. I want people to be inspired from me making flutes. I want other young people to look at it and say, we also want to be connected and to create things. I believe that everything we do has merits. If we careful enough to put our thoughts and our heart in showing the kindness and the gloriness and the goodness of God within everything we do. And the more we're careful about it, the more people will enjoy it, the more it will inspire others. Thank you so much for watching this video. I'll appreciate if you'll write comments, if you'll subscribe, if you have any requests or questions. Thank you and have a most wonderful day.